Good afternoon and welcome to the Kerry Garden Show. Alan Finn with you here today, and I'm all safetied up because I believe we're going to be talking about some hedge cutting. So I'm going to go over here and meet our hedge cutter extraordinaire, Trish. How are we doing, Trish?
Very good. I'm glad you're all set up now for a bit of work today,
I'm
Alan.
set up for a bit of work, absolutely. But I have to say, Trish, I think I'm wearing the wrong Hi-Vis Vest.
Hang on. We'll do a bit of a swap, I think.
This is not my size,
a bit of a
swap there now. Okay, so we'll throw this on since safety is very, very important.
Yes, very important. I suppose, like that now today, we're going to talk about cutting hedges, and you have definitely started off in the right part of it anyway.
Good
Fits
stuff.
Lovely as well.
Yes, snug as a bug in a rug, kind of.
All messing aside, safety is extremely important because a lot of the hedges that would be on the perimeter of your house and it could be adjacent to a road. So first of all, before you even start cutting your hedge, you need to wear the Hi-Vis Vest. You have your helmet there, which has got a bright orange or bright yellow, so people will visibly see you. Put cones out as well, and even if there is extra people in the house, with Hi-Vis vests on as well, just to flag down cars, slow them down whilst you're cutting out on the road.
So it's the preparation as always. We always talk about preparation
Yeah.
in the show, and it's just making sure that you have all these things now, because like a lot of people may not have cones. So
Yeah.
even to get a chair and to tie maybe a spare Hi-Vis vest around
Make it as simple as possible.
something
but
like
effective.
that, but
Yeah.
effective, so
Yeah.
that visibility, so any cars along the road. So that is the very, very important part of it. So I guess the next important part is what tools you use. Right?
Yes, exactly. Now, so we've got a good selection here in front of us. A lot of people over the years, you've one there in front of you there now, it's a petrol one.
I'm going to take the beast off.
The beast, I took the
beast.
lighter.
Oh.
It's actually a little bit heavy. It's fine like for a light strong man like yourself now, Alan,
Uh-huh.
you have no problem using
But you
that.
know what, Trish? If I was
Yes.
actually operating this over, like that is
Yeah.
that is quite heavy now.
After a while, it gets quite tiring.
This is the old
It's the
fashioned
pull cord on it,
pull
and it
cord
takes petrol or whatever,
Okay.
and excellent for cut, and it's easy to use. There's no cords hanging off it or anything like that, so it's perfect when it's petrol.
But-
Puts the muscles on.
I'd say you get a fair old workout off that
You
now
would,
if we were
you would.
kind of cutting across the hedges.
Exactly.
So,
But
so
what I've got now is a lovely light one, and the model of it is still. Now it's battery operated. Now the battery actually doesn't come out of this one.
Okay.
When the battery dies down, you just plug it in, and that'll recharge it then. But it's actually quite light. I could
Okay.
feel now I could do that for the day. with
Right,
that.
yeah, no,
so
no,
here, have now.
I'm just going to have. Oh, look at that! Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So even just the difference in that, ladies and gentlemen listening in, it is a massive, massive difference. So straight away, you're able to operate it at a
Yes.
height if you're kind of getting
Yeah.
into your hedges or anything like that. It's easy. Seems to have a lot of safety catches here.
It does, like
Okay.
again now all that's quite important. Like if you hit a big stump in the tree, you know you will get thicker branches,
Yeah.
and if it gets stuck on it, it might automatically cut out, because sometimes if you hit a big stump and it goes through it. Now with that now, safety wise and cutting a hedge, it's quite important how to go about it as well.
Because that's it, right?
Yeah.
Let's get to that, because what I'm also imagining is you sometimes might also get a little kickback
Yes.
off it.
So what
Okay.
you do then is that you
I'm
have
gonna
it,
hand it back
right?
over to you, Trish.
You have it, and your hedge is here in front of you.
Okay.
You start down at the bottom, and you work your way up.
Okay.
Right? Because if you start at the top and you're working with the blades facing you, if you get caught on
A
this
bit of
knot,
resistance.
yeah, down.
Yeah.
Like-
And that's where we can have
So
some
always
serious
cut
injuries.
away from you. You're going like that, cutting
Okay.
away, and you're walking forward. You don't be walking backwards. So
Okay, so that's another
yeah,
one. So
so
people
you
might
walk
think backwards.
forward and go from bottom to top.
So I guess you're keeping all the momentum in front of you.
Exactly,
That's
you're kind of
what
going
you're
at
doing.
an arch
Yeah.
movement then as well. It's good for the hedge as well as for ourselves as
Yeah.
well, because it gives it a nice clean cut then as well.
Perfect. 'Cause that's a great point. Good for both of us. 'Cause
Yes.
It's safe and it's
safe.
also good for the
Now
hedge.
the thing is, people ask with the battery, how long does it last? So with this one, you're talking about up to half an hour. Now there is different batteries that you can actually buy that would last longer, up to 100 minutes. So just when you come in, know the kind of the size of your hedge, how long it usually takes to cut it, and to get the right battery for it then as well.
And would the option also be there to plug it into the mains? Is there an option for both?
No, just for
Okay.
recharging it. It's
Just
not
for
for plugging it
recharge.
into the mains and going out and cutting at the same time. No, it's just for recharging that you plug it in. But definitely, you'll do a lot in a half an hour.
Yeah.
You'll do a lot in an hour. Like, do you know, you might be kind of need a rest by then.
I was going to say it could also
Plug
act.
it in.
It could also act as a little reminder, just to say, "Do you know what? That half an hour done.
Yes.
Let's put it the recharge, and I'll take a little break. have a cup of tea.
Exactly, and it all works out. Now the thing is, when is the proper time to cut hedges?
Yes.
A lot of people don't know, is it the early spring, is it in the winter, when do we cut it? Now the main thing I suppose we really want to watch out for is not to cut them between March and maybe the end of July up until kind of the middle of August, because the birds are nesting in the hedges at that time of the year.
Yes,
so we have to think of that, even when you're doing it in August, like just even to give a quick look through the hedge, make sure that there's no nesting, no birds in it, and you can cut away. Now, why do we cut a hedge is the thing then as well. Can we not just leave it grow and leave it off, sure, it's covering all the area?
Well, I guess that can be however you want your garden to look.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Some
exactly.
people will be happy enough to just let it go wild, but there are other people then who might have hedges for years and they just kind of keep growing and they need to trim it back. So
yeah, well see, when you cut a hedge, right, when you're cutting the sides of it, what that automatically does then is it actually bushes it and it thickens it out.
Okay.
So if you let a hedge, no matter even as you're saying if it's a formal or informal hedge, if you leave it grow, what will happen is all the growth goes to the top and it'll eventually get bare down at the base.
Okay.
So in order for it to be thick from the bottom up, keep the sides of it cut. Now another thing as well, when you're cutting your hedge, if you cut it straight up like that, it's very hard then for the light to get down to the base of the hedge. So basically what you do is that you have it thick down at the bottom and taper it in at the top. So when you're taping it in at the top, more light can get down to the base.
Going in at a little angle.
Yeah,
so
going in.
basically,
Yeah, so you're taping it in. Now if you're in other countries where you're getting a lot of snow, that's actually quite good as well. The snow won't lodge and break out the hedge then as well. But mainly here it's for the light and to get the growth down at the base of it then as well.
Okay.
Now we have a hedge here behind us.
We have a bit of an Laurel hedge
Hedge there behind us, and you can see it, it's up and it's down and it's every way. So after you're cutting the sides of it, you can cut the top of it then as well. Now some people have a great eye. If I did it, it would be up and down like that.
Get out the level. We put it out level in the top right.
So what you can actually do is you can put a string along, put a pole on either side, put a string along, and go by that guideline. I mean, at least then you can be 100% sure. But with that, you can see the middle one there now, Alan, it's really high, and then the one down here is low. So what I would do then is cut the hedge to all that height.
Okay. Would you go directly from the top, or would you maybe even just
I'd
give
go
it a
down
trim?
a tiny little bit so that you're giving that one a little trim then as well.
Yeah, because
now,
that does help them kind of.
Oh, it does. So when you cut
them.
the top off it, what that is doing then is producing more shoots to come out of the base, and again then it's keeping it nice and bushy.
Hey, no further than this.
No further. But that's not saying your hedge will still grow high. People think if I cut the top off it, so the height is gone on it. It won't be. That will just still produce shoots going up every year.
Okay.
Now you have a difference as in you've got different types of leaves. So you have your laurel with your big huge leaf, you've got your gristilinia with your smaller leaf. Now a lot of people, but if you have a laurel hedge growing, you're obviously going to have, you know, a couple of meters of it, you know, 20-30 meters. They say the best way to cut a laurel hedge is with your hedge shears or secretaries, or that you get a cleaner cut.
Yes.
Because you can imagine if you cut this leaf in half, right, the laurel leaf in half, what's going to happen then? It's going to turn brown.
Yes.
But that's fine. I wouldn't worry about it. If you've got a big area, still use your power tools on it. Like whereas the gristilinia, if you cut that, it's a nice soft leaf and it's not going to go brown.
Okay.
Now, years ago, like when we had the extreme weather conditions, a lot of people lost their hedges. So what you'd actually do then is don't cut it too far into the winter time.
Okay.
So I wouldn't actually cut it back anything past kind of mid-end September really.
September, okay, right.
So what you're doing, if you're cutting your hedge now, you're actually giving it time then to actually come on again and produce.
And adjust, they're really like adjusting to the cuts that have been made and what's actually next to happen.
Exactly. So if you can imagine now, if you cut this, what's it going to do then? It's going to produce new growth. If you do that too late in the winter time, if the new growth comes on, it's the wind and even the frost that might burn it. Right? So if you cut it now, the new growth comes on it, it's hardened up then before the winter comes. So it's perfect then, it won't get burnt. That's what a lot of people that time, they were, like before we started cut our hedges, October, November, that was it, after they were gone. But anybody that did that time, they lost their hedges, whereas anybody that cut it in August, their hedges were safe.
Stayed fine.
So try and cut it kind of middle of August up until the middle of September. It's a good time to cut hedges. So you'd have Escalonia now, which would be another hedging, and that's got a lovely small little pink flower on it. So that would be in full flower at the moment. So you'd wait a little bit later in the season before you'd actually cut that. You don't want to cut the flower off it. And of course all the flowers are for the pollinators as well. You want to leave that.
Okay.
But again, now we're thinking all the clippings is on the ground. What do I do with them?
Yeah, and even just to create more clippings, you have quite a few things. So I have the Secretaries here, but there's also the ones who might have that hard to reach ones, Trish. You know,
Yes,
and, oh, would you look at this? Would you look? It's extendable. So there are all of these ones, and there's even a small little one here.
Yeah, because like even though we're talking about hedges, you still have your books as balls, your pyramids, your twirly things in front of your door. They all need a cutting now as well at the moment. So now is a good time, and that's what you'd be using for the likes of them. Or if you just got a small little maybe boxes hedge that's kind of surrounding a little shrub bed, they all need cutting as well this time of the year. So maybe something that's very, very low, you wouldn't necessarily obviously use that. So you'd use the Hedge Clippers, and they're actually quite good then as well.
And then even this bad boy would be good for any tough.
Yes, if you've got a big branch that's sticking out, the likes of them blades won't cut it, you can cut it with that.
A lopper.
Yeah, a lopper.
I love the name of that. When you told me it was a lopper, I was like, what's a lopper?
So that extends out, and you just go into the branch, and you just gradually squeeze it in, and that will cut it out. And that will give a good clean cut. Now the thing is as well, with all implements, you need to maintain the blades in it. There's no point going out the door with a blunt blade, you're going nowhere.
You're only going to make it worse, because it's actually, and I remember talking about this before, it's actually bad for the plants as well.
It is, yeah.
It's like your blades and your grass and your lawnmower.
Exactly.
It's not good for them.
So just look after all your tools before you go out. Now if you don't have the safety helmet, we also have goggles as well, and the ordinary earphones on its own then as well. So all them, but also as well the goggles.
Looks like I'm heading to war.
It looks better there now, alright with you, but the goggles is very important as well.
Goggles,
because all these little branches are all cutting. If there's anyone helping you on the safety side, make sure they have goggles as well, like if they're close to you, but try and keep them away from you. Because
even as well too, then you'd actually as well find it with the strimmer.
Yes.
You know, because the strimmer is another thing as well, because
you could have stones or anything flying off.
All around the place.
It's very important.
And just before we get to the clippings and stuff, the strimmers, the one you have here as well too, is also electric.
It's all battery
operated.
Battery operated now as well. Actually, there was a gentleman there in the shop this morning when I was taking these out, and he said he's got a strimmers, a blower, and a hedge trimmers. So he's got 3 different batteries. There's a battery for each one, right? But he says they're all interchangeable, meaning the battery from the blower can fit into this. So if he was out blowing to extend his time, he'd bring his 3 batteries with him.
Oh, look at.
When one is finished,
pop it out and
pop in the other one. Because you're not going to be doing everything on the one go.
No.
So if you've got the 3 items in the house, the batteries are interchangeable.
Okay, so that's
so
really
again, now this is
beneficial
another lovely little light one. You hold it like that, and you just go along the ground, and it just tidies up your grass area.
And it's not the wire either. This is like a little plastic
and they
blades.
can be bought separately here. We have them in packets then as well if they ever break or anything like that.
And they're probably a little bit better than the wire.
But I think it's all about the lightweight and making life easy for you out of the garden. You don't want to come home and sit down at night time with the shoulders falling off you.
Especially if you're working in a kind of a maintenance job or a job where you're kind of lifting and stuff. The last thing you want to do is come home and do all that. And this little thing as well too.
Now, this is fantastic. You can roll it along the ground and you can clip your edges as you're going along.
Okay.
And that is fantastic. It just tidies it up. And I've always said it before, when you have your shrub beds planted, do the area around it, whether it's bricking around the edge or using one thing like this. And just to make it makes it so tidy and it finishes off the bed. So
and what's that called?
I don't know the right name of it now.
But it's there, it's in stock, and it's handy. And it's also for anybody who might have some mobility issues, because you don't have to bend down all the time in your back or your knees and everything like that.
And even if you don't want to use the wheels, you can just lift it up a bit with your hands and just clip away then.
Away as well too.
So that should be perfect.
Excellent, excellent. So let's get to the final part then, because all of a sudden we've cut our hedges, we've sheared everything you have, and all we have on the floor is loads of clippings.
And what do I do with them?
We just throw them over the back wall?
No, I'm
into the neighbour's garden.
We can actually make life very easily for ourselves now, and we can actually put them in the compost bin.
Okay, so right beside me here I have a kind of a fairly normal kind of compost bin. It's a good size, and everything like that. So basically you're just talking about putting them in, open
up the top, and there's a lid down the bottom when you're eventually taking out your compost. So like that now you could mix it. When you're composting, you're mixing different layers. So you're mixing your vegetable peelings from the kitchen or whatever, your tea bags, your coffee granules. You can put in your clippings then. Now the only thing is, if your branches are very big that you've actually cut down from the hedge, you need to shred them first before they go into that.
Okay.
Or cut them down into smaller pieces,
so
that they'll break down that bit quicker.
Okay.
There's also a product called Garrotii, and that actually breaks down composting material that bit quicker as well.
Well that's good. Yeah.
So you could use that. So that's a great way, or even if you get kind of 4 pallets, make a little square out of it, put them all in there, and then rot down eventually. Don't throw them away. Like, you can use them as compost in your garden.
And that could be very nutritious for the following year.
Exactly. Now you said it, and now that you say that, actually, you can use that under your hedge the following year.
Yeah.
Do you know? And that can really rejuvenate your
because
your
that's
hedge
another part of it is like it takes that time to compost it to actually.
It does.
For the
it takes about a year for it to compost.
Yeah,
it does really, to be quite honest. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, listen, that's fantastic. There'll be lots of busy activity, and I guess the main message here is to try and make things easy for you, and obviously try and work safely.
Yes.
You know, making sure that you've all of that's kind of looked after. The tools and equipment are here for you. Always make sure that you've checked, or someone as well as knowing what you're doing.
Yes.
If there could be people up on a ladder, you know, there's all these things. Let someone know.
Actually, that's another vital thing as well. Don't put a ladder up against the hedge, leaning in.
Oh yes.
Doing it. Get the framework. Get a hoist, get a scissors lift, get scaffolding or whatever, and put all that on.
Or make sure that someone is at least helping you out, and you have you know what you're kind of at, because that can be dangerous. We don't want anyone falling and hurting themselves, especially when they have a sharp implement like anything we've done here. So safety is very important, as well as keeping your garden nice and tidy and clean. Brilliant. Yeah. Thanks very much, Trish, and of course do remember to call in and talk to your expert about getting anything like that and suiting whatever needs you may have in your garden. That's it from us for another show. Thanks a million for everybody for watching and for listening. From myself, Trish, and Dave here, Boyles of Clorglen. We'll talk to you next week. Happy gardening.